Hi. So, I said I wouldn't do it for a while, but I found, thank you, Amelia Bedelia, and she's so much fun. And one day you will find her to be so much fun too. But until then, I'll try to explain a little bit so you at least understand. This is written by Peggy Parrish, and the pictures are by Barbara Siebel Thomas. Here we go. Mrs. Rogers was all in a dither. Great Aunt Myra is coming today. Now, to be in a dither means that she's like all stressed out. Now that is nice, said Amelia Bedelia. I do love company. So, Mrs. Rogers is like, oh, she's coming, we've got to do it, right? But Amelia Bedelia's like, ooh, I love company. We've been trying for years to get her to visit, said Mrs. Rogers, but Great Aunt Myra says the only place she feels at home is at home, so everything must be exactly right. We do want her to be happy here. Now, don't you worry your head, said Miss Amelia Bedelia. I'll fix everything. What should I do first? Well, Amelia is not worried at all. She's like, got it. Don't worry. What do you want? Where do you want me to start? Well, the guest room must be made ready. Strip the sheets off the bed, remake it with the new rosebud sheets, said Mrs. Rogers. Thank goodness you're here. Now see that right there? Mrs. Rogers is giving her the nice new rosebud sheets. Remember that. Amelia Bedelia went to the guest room. These folks do have odd ways. Imagine stripping sheets after you use them. So she was told to strip the sheets off the bed, which means take them off the bed. But let's see what Amelia Bedelia thought she meant. Well, there she goes. She did take the sheets off of the bed, right? But it's what she's going to do with them now that is the problem. Amelia Bedelia shook her head, but she stripped the sheets. See her? She took the sheets, and she didn't just take them and wash them. She took them, and she's like, rink. She's stripping them. She's ripping them into strips. Oh, Amelia Bedelia. She's so silly. Can you say, oh, silly Amelia Bedelia? Amelia Bedelia had just finished when the doorbell rang. That must be the laundryman with Mr. Rogers' shirts, called Mrs. Rogers. Please check them and make sure they're all there. Amelia Bedelia hurried to the door and took the package. Please check them and make sure they're all there. She just means look and make sure what it says is on the paper, that all of those shirts are there, right? That's how you check it. What does Amelia Bedelia think? Let's find out. Amelia Bedelia opened the package. She unfolded each shirt. 2 sleeves, 1 collar, 1 pocket, 6 buttons. Yes, they're all here. I told you she was literal. So she's checking every little piece of them to make sure nothing's missing on the shirt, which is nice, right? And then let's see what she does. Oh, the coup de grace. There's not a thing missing, said Amelia Bedelia. Now to check them. It would be a sight easier to buy them already checked, said Amelia Bedelia, but she quickly checked each shirt. She did what? She checked them. See the red paint? See the paintbrush? She's painting on the shirts. She's making checks on the shirt. You'll see later what that looks like. Mrs. Rogers came downstairs in a rush. Amelia Bedelia, my bright pink dress has spots in it. Please remove them with the spot remover. Leave the dress out. I want to wear it tonight. Now, I must go to the market. Okay, there's the spot remover. Okay, she's telling her, hey, my dress has stains. My dress has stains. This, spray it on there, get rid of those stains. The spot remover. Let's see what Amelia Bedelia thinks. There, she's looking at the dresses, and there's the bright pink dress that she told her to get the spots out, right? Amelia Bedelia looked at the bright pink dress. I don't see any spots. This dress just needs washing. Then another dress caught Amelia Bedelia's eye. Uh-oh. See the polka-dotted dress? Amelia Bedelia is about to be really confused. She must have meant the light pink dress. Now that one sure is spotted. Amelia Bedelia held the dress up. It looks mighty nice with the spots in it, but I guess she's tired of it that way. Oh my, oh Amelia Bedelia. Can you say silly Amelia Bedelia? Let's see what she does. Amelia Bedelia put spot remover on each spot. Then she waited. Nothing happened. I didn't think that stuff would work, said Amelia Bedelia. She got the scissors, and Amelia Bedelia removed every spot in that dress. She cut it all out, look. One spot. 2 spots. It's going to be one holy dress, huh? She's doing what she thinks is best. Here we are. Amelia Bedelia, called Mrs. Rogers. Please come take these groceries. Amelia Bedelia ran to take the bag. Here are some roses too. Do scatter them in the living room. I must get my hair done now. While I'm gone, wash the vegetables, string the beans. If you have time, make a jelly roll. Great Aunt Myra does love jelly roll, said Mrs. Rogers. Did you hear those instructions? Scatter the roses, string the beans, and roll the jelly. Remember, Amelia Bedelia is literal, so she's going to find a way to do just that. But that's not necessarily what Mrs. Rogers means by what she's saying. We have to be careful to mean what we say and say what we mean and make sure people understand what we're saying, right? Yeah. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. Amelia Bedelia stopped in the living room. Seems like roses would look nicer sitting in proper like vases. But if she wants them scattered, scattered they will be. See, she's throwing them all around. La, 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 right? Can you throw them around with her? La, 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 la. Now let's see what she does. Amelia Bedelia went on to the kitchen. With the groceries, she washed the vegetables. Then she found a ball of string, and Amelia Bedelia strung all the beans. She found a ball of string. That's like finding a ball of yarn, right? She's going to string the green beans. Interesting. What else will she do? Jelly roll? Exclaimed Amelia Bedelia. I have never heard tell of jelly rolling. But Amelia Bedelia got out a jar of jelly. Amelia Bedelia tried again and again, but she just could not get that jelly to roll. Look, she's trying. She's like, come on, jelly, roll, roll, jelly, right? Come on. And it's just smushing everywhere, right? Because, well, it's jelly, and jelly doesn't roll. Except when you try to spread it on bread sometimes. You know what I mean? Let's see what happens. Amelia Bedelia washed her hands. She got out a mixing bowl. Amelia Bedelia began to mix a little of this and a pinch of that. That sounds familiar. A pinch of that. Great Aunt Myra or no Great Aunt Myra, there's not going to be any rolling jelly in this house tonight, said Amelia Bedelia. So Amelia Bedelia was like, you know what? I tried to do what they said. That's impossible. I'm just going to make my own thing, and we'll see what happens. Mr. and Mrs. Rogers arrived home at the same time. Mrs. Rogers called Amelia Bedelia. Please separate the eggs and pare the other vegetables you washed. I'll do the cooking. Then she and Mr. Rogers hurried upstairs to dress. Okay. More instructions. Separate the eggs. You know, an egg has hard shell, and then you open it up and it's got this clear stuff in it, and then it's got the yellow egg yolk. And she meant separate the clear stuff from the yellow egg yolk. Right? That's not what Amelia Bedelia is thinking, because she's literal. So let's see what she thinks. Amelia Bedelia took 3 eggs. I wonder why they need to be separated. They've been together all day and nothing happened. But Amelia Bedelia separated those eggs. See? One's here, one's over here. Silly Amelia. Pare the vegetables. Amelia Bedelia laughed. Here you two go together, and you two. Now be careful or I'll separate you too. See, she's putting these guys together and those guys together, and she's all, be careful or I'll separate you like I did the eggs. Because she thinks they're just being ridiculous, right? Why would you ask me to do such a thing? But that's just not what Mrs. Rogers meant. Well, Amelia Bedelia went up to Mrs. Rogers' room. What should I do with the stripped sheets? She asked. Stripped sheets? Exclaimed Mrs. Rogers. But she got no further. She's like, what? When who comes out? Mr. Rogers roared. What in thunderation happened to my shirts? Oh, don't you like the big checks? I didn't have time to do little ones, but I will next time, promised Amelia Bedelia. Remember when Amelia got out, they said, check the shirts. Amelia Bedelia is literal. So she got out the red paint and she made checks on all the shirts that used to be one solid color. She turned them into checkered shirts. Silly Amelia Bedelia. "My dress!" exclaimed Mrs. Rogers. "It's full of holes." "Yes, ma'am, I removed every single spot," said Amelia Bedelia. Look, she's just beside herself. She's like, Before Mrs. Rogers could say any more, the doorbell rang. "Great Aunt Myra," said Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. They rushed to the front door. I guess what they had on would do, right? "Good evening, grandniece. Good evening, grandnephew. My, that trip made me hungry," said Great Aunt Myra. "I'll cook dinner right now," said Mrs. Rogers. Everybody went into the kitchen. Well, they're going to find some really fun stuff there, huh? Looky. "Amelia Bedelia, did you strain the beans?" asked Mrs. Rogers. "Yes, see, they do give such a homey look," said Amelia Bedelia. You gotta love her, right? "Where are the eggs I asked you to separate?" said Mrs. Rogers. "Here's one. One is behind the clock, and the other is over there. Did I separate them far enough apart?" asked Amelia Bedelia. Mrs. Rogers said nothing, so Amelia Bedelia went on. See, one's here, one's there, you know. "And I paired the vegetables. They went together real well, and there weren't any left over." See? There's the little groups that she made. "You two, and you two, and you guys can go together." Mrs. Rogers slapped her hand on the table. It hit right in a sticky blob. "Ugh, what is that?" she shouted. Do you know? Can you say jelly? That's from when she was trying to roll the jelly, right? "Jelly. I tried to make it roll, but it just plip-plopped all over the place," said Amelia Bedelia. "Amelia Bedelia," exclaimed Mrs. Rogers, "how do you get things so mixed up?" "Things mixed up? Oh, I plumb forgot," said Amelia Bedelia. She hurried to the stove. Remember how she was mixing things up? She was like, "I've done what I can do," right? So then she was making her own thing. What do you think that she has done? Whoop. Amelia Bedelia opened the oven door. Great Aunt Myra sat up straight and sniffed. Can you sniff like Aunt Myra? Do you smell it? Do you smell what she smelled? Let's find out. Hot apple pie. I do declare. Now that is the kind of mixed up thing I like. Ding! 1 point for Amelia Bedelia, right? Great Aunt Myra announced, "Grandniece, grandnephew, I like it here." "Oh, Great Aunt Myra, we're so glad," said Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. They both began to talk at once, but Great Aunt Myra wasn't much for words. She had her eyes on that last piece of pie. I would too, wouldn't you? Great Aunt Myra put the last piece of pie on her plate. Then she said, "Grandniece, grandnephew, I will visit you often. That Amelia Bedelia really knows how to make a body feel at home. Thank you, Amelia Bedelia. Ah. See, for all her craziness, she gets some things right. When she gets them right, she gets them right. Amelia Bedelia smiled. She and Great Aunt Myra would get along. Thank you, Amelia Bedelia. Thank you. Right? That was a good story. Someday you'll really, really like it. I love you. Mwah!